Welcome to Wit Thinks. Sorry to keep you all waiting so long for the first instalment of 2017. Life has been, shall we say, a little hectic. In the space of a few weeks, Wit and I moved house, changed jobs, and then tragedy struck when Wit's computer broke.
Devastating was not the word. It was a bloody tragedy.
All is back on an even keel now, however, so prepare to be bombarded over the coming weeks with a backlog of videos. I've decided to start this year with a Who Is That, and my person of choice is Isambard Kingdom Brunel, or Brunel to the initiated. Why choose this slightly obscure character from history? Well, I grew up in a town called Swindon, christened the Gateway to the southwest, as a result of Brunel's revolutionary work in engineering in Victorian Britain. To those unfamiliar with Swindon, it's a place without much claim to fame, Billy Piper and being the butt of all jokes in the UK version of The Office aside. However, Brunel helped put the town on the map, sort of, and that's something the average Swindoner is very proud of. Born in Portsmouth on the 9th of April 1806 to parents Mark, a renowned engineer himself, and Sophia, Brunel was educated predominantly in France at Lycée Henri Courtry and the University of Caen before moving back to England in 1822 to work alongside his father on the groundbreaking Thames Tunnel. Work on the 396-metre-long Thames Tunnel commenced in 1825 and was completed in 1843. It is alleged to be the first tunnel known that was successfully constructed under a navigable river thanks to Mark Brunel's patented tunnelling shield. The tunnelling shield, by the way, is a piece of engineering alleged to have been inspired by the shell of the shipworm, a mollusk highly efficient at boring through submerged timber. Work on the Thames Tunnel was dangerous, and Isambard Kingdom Brunel narrowly escaped death when a section of the tunnel roof collapsed, resulting in a flood. In order to restore public confidence in the tunnel, Brunel hosted a banquet in the incomplete tunnel in 1827, a genius piece of PR both for Brunel personally and the tunnel. Brunel's first major commission was the Clifton suspension bridge built across the Avon near Bristol. Yet another revolutionary piece of engineering, an Act of Parliament was passed in order to allow a wrought iron suspension bridge to be built instead of a stone one. A heated tendering process to win the work commenced, with Brunel submitting a proposal £10,000 less than the design submitted by another great engineer of the time, Telford. However, a number of complaints that the budget had not been set resulted in the competition being held in 1831. 13 designs were submitted and judged based on engineering qualities of the proposals. The winner, surprisingly, was not Brunel. Instead, it was a design by Smith & Hawkes, who were based near Birmingham. Brunel did not take this news well and insisted on meeting, where he managed to persuade a U-turn on the declared victor, and it resulted in him being crowned the winner. Brunel took advice from his father on the construction of the Egyptian-influenced tower-based design as discovered in letters uncovered in 2010. Mark Brunel was unconvinced by his son's design and suggested that the central support for the bridge was necessary to support the vast length. Isambard Brunel did as sons do and chose to disregard entirely his father's advice. The result was a spectacular structure complete with characteristic wrought iron chains. Unfortunately for Brunel, the bridge was not completed until 1864, many years after he had died. However, it still stands as his memorial today. The Clifton Suspension Bridge was not the only bridge that Brunel completed. He also built the Hungerford Suspension Bridge between 1841 and 1845. Moving on to Brunel's contribution to the railways, in 1833 Brunel was appointed engineer for the Great Western Railway. He started by carrying out surveys for the new project to create a main line between Bristol and London. Keep in mind that this was the infancy of the railway era and was a hugely ambitious project. Brunel controversially opted to take the flattest route through Reading and Swindon, which at the time was a tiny village of no note. The line was constructed between 1835 and 1841 with the aim of a high-speed, fuel-economic locomotive service, which resulted in the construction of a 3,200-yard box tunnel situated just outside of Bath, and the flat arch bridge at Maidenhead, which traverses the Thames, and several viaducts. A little side fact, the sun is said to shine through the box tunnel on Brunel's birthday. Now, as someone who shares the date, albeit a number of years later, I'm really not that old, I feel I should know categorically if that's true or not, but alas, I've never sat and witnessed the event myself, so I'll let you explore in person to discover if this is true or not. Brunel also designed railway terminals and a number of bridges that culminates in the Royal Albert Bridge near Plymouth. Brunel was renowned for being a hard taskmaster. He fully expected others to share his relentless enthusiasm and work ethic, and held little regard for the navvies who worked on the construction of his projects. The navvies worked in awful conditions, receiving no compensation if injury or death resulted from their labour. Brunel's success on the railways was not without fault. He introduced a 7-foot gauge which worked better on paper than it did in commercial practice, as although more stable than the standard gauge other railways were using, it meant goods on freight trains using the GWR lines had to be transferred between networks. To great cost following Brunel's death, the broad gauge was replaced with the British standard 4-foot 8.5-inch gauge in 1892. Another error in judgment was made on other sections of the railway line as Brunel hoped that trains would be able to run on atmospheric pressure alone. He put this to test near Devon. Unfortunately, the technology failed catastrophically, leading the folly to be abandoned when it failed. Brunel designed and built Paddington Station, which opened in 1854 and marked the overall success of GWR's link to London. The station still stands today and highlights Brunel's stubborn determination to complete the project. Nice one. While working on the GWR project, Brunel dabbled with shipbuilding. The Great Western, a ship for transatlantic shipping and the largest steamship in the world, was Brunel's brainchild. It sailed in 1837. The SS Great Britain, the world's first metal ship, was completed in 1843. It became the forefather of modern ships around the globe. Brunel personified innovation in the era, and he didn't limit himself to a particular project. In 1854, when Britain entered the Crimea War, he created a prefab hospital which could be transferred to the region, known as the Renkioi Hospital. Florence Nightingale famously quoted the hospital as one of those magnificent huts due to the attention he paid to sanitation and hygiene. A quick note on Brunel's private life. He married Mary Elizabeth in 1836 and had 3 children. Shortly before the Great Eastern made her maiden voyage to New York in 1859, Brunel had a stroke and died 10 days later. He was only 53 years old. Like his father, Brunel was buried in Kensal Green Cemetery in London, where he remains today. He left an awe-inspiring and significant legacy in engineering, which is still not only used but admired in modern times. Well, that's your lot. A whirlwind tour into Isambard Kingdom Brunel. I hope you found this video interesting. If you want to know more or have a particular character from history that you'd like a video on, leave a comment and let us know. In the meantime, stay curious and peace out.